Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we will now move on to the next session very quickly. We're lagging behind by about 15 minutes. And so I'm going to request our tech team to bring all our panelists on board. Let me begin by introducing the theme of the next session here from the plenary hall, which is new revenue opportunities for utilities. That is what we're going to explore in this session. This session, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be chaired by Shri Raj Pratap Singh, and he's the chairman of UP Electricity Regulatory Commission. And he took charge as chairman of UPRC in 2018. He joined the IS, the Indian Administrative Service, in 1983. Shri Singh has dealt with policy formulation, budgeting, implementation, monitoring, and coordination, personnel management, and service delivery aspects of public administration at the state government for 21 years and central government for 6 years at several levels in India. In addition, he has worked as senior advisor for 3 years in multilateral development institution, World Bank, at the board level at Washington, D.C. Warm welcome to you, sir. I'd like to now, ladies and gentlemen, introduce you to Mr. Reji Kumar Pillai, President, India Smart Grid Forum. Since he's been the president since inception in 2011 and is also the chairman of Global Smart Energy Federation since 2016. He's an internationally renowned expert with nearly 4 decades of experience in the electricity sector. He's spearheading a mission to leverage technology to transform the electric grid in India and provide clean and reliable electricity to every citizen 24/7 at affordable cost. And he's going to be moderating the session. Let me now introduce our speakers, ladies and gentlemen. We have with us Mr. UN Behra, who is the chairman of Orissa Electricity Regulatory Commission, and he was an officer of the Indian Administrative Service of 1983 batch of Odisha cadre. And he has spent early 7 years in the district administration supervising various development programs. Also, he comes armed with over 34 years of valuable experience in the IS service. Warm welcome, sir. Let me now take you through, ladies and gentlemen, the profile of our next speaker. We have with us Mr. Sutirtha Bhattacharya, who's the chairman of West Bengal Electricity Regulatory Commission. And prior to WBERC, he was chairman and managing director of Coal India Limited and chairman and managing director of the Singareni Coalries Company Limited. Warm welcome, sir. Let me now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Mukesh Khullar, who is a member of Maharashtra Electricity Regulatory Commission, and he joined Maharashtra cadre of IAS in 1985. Over a period of past 33 years, Shri Khullar gained rich experience by holding top positions in various field organizations covering regulatory, welfare, and development areas. Warm welcome, sir. Let me now, ladies and gentlemen, introduce Mr. Kapil Mohan, the Additional Chief Secretary, Energy for Karnataka. And he also holds the concurrent charge as the Principal Secretary for Ports Infrastructure and Inland Water Transport. Over a span of 3 decades, Mr. Mohan has garnered profound experience of working at the top level of various government organizations. Warm welcome, sir. And our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Mark Boylett, who is Ambassador Global Smart Energy Federation. He started his career at Electricité de France R&D in 1980. He then worked in North America for 10 years. In 1990, he opened the EDF representative office in Washington, D.C. And in 1997, he became head of Jazz de France, Quebec in Canada. He was appointed head of the Clermont-Ferrand distribution area as well. Warm welcome, sir. Let me now introduce our next speaker to you, Mr. Amit Mathur, who is the Chief Risk Officer, Indraprasth Gas Limited. And he's also Chief Ethics Officer, Chief Internal Auditor, and Head of Regulatory and Corporate Affairs at Indraprasth Gas Limited. And he's, ladies and gentlemen, comes armed with over 22 years of work experience serving in various management roles and has been awarded CRO of the Year in 2020. Warm welcome, sir. Let me now introduce to all of you Shri Ganesh Das, Head Innovation Startup Power Distribution, Delhi Distribution Limited. And he, ladies and gentlemen, has, besides having an executive qualification on export management from Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, he is a visiting scholar at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Cambridge, Massachusetts, USA, and honorary fellow at the Center of Urban Energy in the Faculty of Engineering and Architectural Sciences, Ryerson University, Toronto, and Ontario, Canada. And professional experience spans around 32 years. Warm welcome, sir. Let me introduce Mr. Ram Mohan Rayaprol, who is the National Manager EMS, CMS Computers Limited. And he truly is a result-oriented professional with over 16 years of field exposure in energy management, energy efficiency, DCS, and SCADA systems. He has expertise in handling a diverse range of operations, entailing service project management and energy management, and DCS and SCADA systems. Warm welcome, sir. Let me now introduce you to, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Abhishek Ranjan, who has about 2 decades of experience in power and information technology sectors in India. He started his career with Infosys Technologies Limited, an IT company based in India, where he worked on development of enterprise applications for a major US utility and a technology MNC. He's now the Assistant Vice President, System Operations, ST and ABT at BSES Rajdhani Power Limited. With that, I will now give the proceedings over to our moderator, Shri Reji Kumar Pillai. Sir, if I may request you to please take over the proceedings.
Good afternoon, good morning to Mark, and good afternoon to other distinguished people on the panel. Okay. Can people hear me? Can people hear me? Yeah, you can go mute. Otherwise, there will be...
You are audible.
Oh, it's coming from there. Sorry. Yeah, welcome to all the participants and our respected chair, Mr. R.P. Singh. I will request Singh Saab to make the opening remarks. Thereafter, I will make a presentation. This presentation I had done during our distribution utility meet in 2020 November, and these are some very out of the box ideas of what the utility of the future can do. When the DSOs, today's discoms are going to become DSOs or network operators, what are the additional things they could do for their sustainability? It's a detailed presentation. I'll take about 15-20 minutes. Before that, I would request R.P. Singh sir to make his opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Pillai, for giving me this opportunity. First of all, I would like to welcome all the participants to this session on new revenue opportunities. And this is very relevant in the present day's context when the distribution companies are under severe financial stress, and for all sort of reasons, good and not so good, the finances of the distribution companies are getting stretched and unmanageable. In this scenario, it is very necessary and relevant that we explore the new avenues and new areas from where they can generate resources and revenues so that they become a viable financial entity. To begin with, I think there is strong reason for them to not only look from the new sources, but also to focus on their existing tariff-based sources. Tariff-based sources, when we are talking about, there is a tremendous scope for them to increase their revenues. One of the major scope has arisen after the implementation of Saubhagya scheme, under which a large number of consumers have been given electricity accessibility in the last few years. So the new connections, they are not having meter installed, and since they are not having meter installed, they are not providing any sort of revenue. So increasing the coverage ratio of the billing for the new connections, or those which are not connected with a meter, connecting them with a meter should be a very important activity for the distribution company so that their coverage ratio of metering increases. Then, having done the metering, then is there issue relating to billing efficiency or billing ratio. Why these are important? Because even if you have a 95% billing ratio and 95% collection ratio, still you are losing 95 multiplied by 95, that's about 10% of the revenue is lost. So to recover that 10%, you have to increase your ratios substantially. So if all three ratios are met, even 90%, then still you reach only about 70% of the potential. So to keep it about 98-99% is the need of the hour. Then one more aspect which most of the distribution companies do not take advantage of is the provision in the Act and the regulation for claiming fuel and power purchase price adjustment charges periodically. The Act provides that. Most of the state distribution companies regulation do provide that whenever there is a increase in the fuel price or the power purchase price, the distribution companies can claim that without coming to the regulatory commission, and there is a set formula given for that. So, but the distribution companies, they do not take advantage of that. Thereby they lose the opportunity value of that money. Now, having said that on the tariff front, the new revenue potential or the new revenue aspects mostly comes from the non-tariff based or non-business or not from the core business side of it. The one important aspect which can be explored or utilized is the monetization of their digital assets. You know, they have a very huge database, and which can be made available to market research or target marketing. So you don't need to go to Oxford Analytics for having which consumer has got what sort of status or income or something like that. His power will tell you everything. And these all inputs and information, though it may have some privacy issues which can be addressed appropriately, then can provide them some source of revenue. Then another way of enhancing their resources and revenue could be the sharing of the billing and collection channels with other utilities. You know, in a same area, there are other distribution utilities which are operating. And if they pool together their resources on billing and collection channel, it will lead to lowering of their expenses. Like, for example, with gas or broadband telephone, and even with municipalities. The bill delivery aspect, which is done monthly for all utilities, can be done jointly, thereby reducing their operational costs. And resource raising can be done through this. And similarly, the same channel can also be shared with the microfinance lending and financing companies in providing lending facilities to the necessary self-help groups or others. So thereby the channel is shared with the distribution companies, the lending and financial agencies, so that the operating cost of these billing and collection channels remains very productive. Now, the distribution companies have got a very large network of its infrastructure. It has got poles, wire, transformers, and they have substantial coverage all over the city. Now, what they can perhaps think of doing is they can have some sort of arrangement with the law enforcement agency and have the camera installed, use the wires to carry those signals at a centralized, or they can feed it even to the law enforcement agency and charge certain revenue out of it. So these cameras can also be used for theft of electricity, etc. So they will supplement the law enforcement agency by providing this type of services on a fee basis. EV charging station is an area which is, because electric vehicle is coming up in a big way, and in most of the places they have got enough space at the substation level or near some transformer. They can provide the electric vehicle charging facility and earn revenue. One more area I can think of is what we have been discussing in the other sessions, like providing platform for digital trading, like peer-to-peer energy transactions between prosumers and other consumers. And especially this is more relevant because now the government of India, Ministry of Renewable Energy Sources, they have this Kusum schemes coming up, in which a large number of solar farms and other things are being set up. So when they are not required, they can be sold to other consumers on an open access basis, and the service provider could be distribution company itself. By providing that, they can have some sort of fee for enabling this transaction and also provide open access mix. Then I can think of sharing of the substation infrastructure by equipping it with, say, weather station. Now, agriculture insurance business is not becoming very effective because the weather stations are not properly set up in the rural areas. Now, but the distribution companies have their substation present in almost all the tehsil and block level. So if that substation can provide infrastructure for weather station, then the smaller area data will be available with the insurance company, and that it can use it for providing an effective insurance solution to the farmers of that region. And the traditional sources of income are already there, like for example, using the back of their paper bill for advertisement purposes, or their website for advertisement purposes. These are always used by the public utilities. And another thing is, if the distribution companies have some spare commercial land or property along with the transmission distribution setup, that can be also used on some sort of revenue basis, either on the lease basis or on the outright sale basis if it is required. One potential I can think of is that distribution company can engage in providing behind the meter services itself, because now in a great manner the smart devices have started finding their place inside the home. The solar rooftops are already there, and even the smart plugs have being sold on various e-tailers and others. Those have made the life of consumers very easy. Now, for example, I can take advantage of the diversity by using and programming these smart devices in a manner that my connected load goes down. For example, if I am having a washing machine of 2 kilowatt and a dishwasher of another 2 kilowatts, and air conditioners are also there, so I can program it in such a manner that those devices will operate, and my connected load will never increase beyond say 2.5 to 3 kilowatt, and then thereby instead of taking a 6 kilowatt connection, I can manage with 3 kilowatt only, using the diversity by programming the devices, smart devices. So, and also energy efficiency services can be also provided by the distribution company, which can provide some sort of revenue to them. And what else? I think not only this, power companies have long-term PPAs, which are, most of them are getting stranded because of increase in the RPO, the renewable power obligation. So what to do with this surplus capacity which has been already contracted, and they have to in any case pay the fixed charges. So to generate additional revenue, if they start selling that power in the exchange, whenever their recovery is more than the fixed cost which they are paying, so it is going to be contributing towards their standard capacity recovery. So that is one way they can reduce their standard capacity charges also, by engaging in trading of the surplus contracted power in the energy exchange or the portal, as the case may be. If they are having some sort of tax liability, it is only relevant for those distribution companies who are paying income tax. They can sell their assets and buy back on lease, so that what happens is that their return on equity goes down, and their expenditure, lease rent is a chargeable expenditure, that goes up. So thereby they can do some sort of income tax planning to reduce their outflow on the tax basis and generate surplus. And net metering is a very common thing now, and the distribution companies are seen as a barrier to all sort of rooftop solar projects coming up. But there is a tremendous potential. It is good for the DISCOM if they themselves get engaged in this business of installing or providing services, consultancy services to the consumers for installing a rooftop solar project. That will help them in generating some revenue. And one thing, perhaps this could amount to stretching the logic too far, I can think of, is monetizing their productive assets to fuel future infrastructure investment by way of creating some sort of investment infrastructure trust, in which like for example, the transmission companies or others, even generating companies have started doing that. What you do is that you sell the revenue stream, which is likely to be generated from your productive asset, and you get the money upfront from those in the trust, and then you refinance your future growth and development process. This could be, in a way, helpful to mitigate their regulatory risk, because the trend is now that the return on equity may not remain constant at current level. It may go down. So if you can work out a cash flow and do the innovative financing by transferring these to the investment infrastructure trust, you can perhaps get some long-term fund available to you. So in these short time, I think these are some of the points which can perhaps considered by the distribution companies for generating new opportunities. Thank you. I'll conclude here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You covered many of the points in this presentation. I will quickly go through this. So, opportunities enabled by digitalization of the power sector is the first part, and the second will cover by unlocking the physical assets. So the physical assets appreciate while the digital assets appreciate. So for smart grid or digital assets in electricity distribution companies through our APDRP, and actually our additional chief secretary energy from Karnataka, who is in the panel now, Mr. Kapil Mohan, he been the architect of that RAPDRP, which was done in 2008-2009 in the US Ministry of Power that time. So for first time, most of the some digital, everybody have data center, they have GIS maps, they have modern building systems, all these things, although not discom wide, at least partially, all the urban areas, they have call centers and proper building systems. These are all revolutionary things which were done over a decade ago. Although it was envisaged that they will do it in 2 years, but in 5 years they will have completed that. So some of these things which have been implemented, this can be now leveraged for additional revenue, because the value of it goes up as its usability and data is. So, first one, I'll talk about new services, the part B. This is about unlocking the existing infrastructure and new services, which things are also mentioned. They sell at solar roof to PV, and also energy efficient star rated appliances, which many of them are doing. And we are promoting electric cooking. ISG have been working on this for a year, and I'll come to that when the slide comes. Electric vehicle chargers, many people want to buy electric vehicle. Along with that, they should, in 19 states we have special tariff for electric vehicle charging, so they may like to buy chargers. The discom should come forward to set up smart charging at the residences, which can be leveraged for grid supporting, and battery energy storage systems, the communication bandwidth, the systems for SCADA, DMS, and also for AMI, or smart metering, which they are going to do. That all can be shared for additional revenue, shared with the gas distribution companies, water distribution companies, many other traffic security cameras, etc. So large building maintenance is something which they can take up. Smart home, grid interactive buildings and appliances they can promote. And most importantly, when we built EHV substations in urban areas 25 years ago or 40 years ago, they were all pretty far away from the city core. But now the cities have grown such a way that all this 132 kV substation, 220 kV substation, 400 kV substations have become urban areas. And there is no scope. There is no, that became part of the city, and there is no scope for expanding them while the load is going up constantly. So what we need to do is to convert those old substations into gas insulated substations. Almost 2/3 to 75% of the land becomes free, which can be commercialized, which will bring in huge revenue that can be used for other grid modernization activities. So unlocking the value of lamp poles and transmission towers, this can be done for I'll come to that later. Cooling as a service, district cooling system. We just finished a workshop in the other room on district cooling systems this afternoon. So new revenue opportunities enabled by digitalization of power sector. Me and Mark Boyle, we presented this at Stockholm 3 years ago at the ISGAN meeting. Sorry, two years ago, 2019, we have presented it at the ISGAN Executive Committee meeting. They asked us to look at it. So me and Mark put together this ideas. The digital data can be shared, remove spatial and interdomain barriers, and share with the other service providers like water, city gas distribution, municipal agencies, renewable energy development agencies. All these people, the customer data, which is with the DISCOM, is a very valuable asset, which can be shared with the proper agreements, MOUs, and this data. Now we'll come to the AMI data, the smart metering data. All these are valuable assets. The previous session parallelly happening in city gas distribution, we have another session going on there. I was talking about this, that more than 50% of the geography, the government of India has issued city gas distribution licenses. And all these new CGD companies who are going to a new city, they don't know who are the potential customers. If an electricity distribution company share the data, they would exactly know whom to prioritize, whom to target, whom to approach for giving their the pipe gas connections. So this is a great opportunity for them, and we actually brought together CGD companies, and today we launched a India CGD forum under the chairmanship of Honorable Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Sri Tat Kapoor. So CGD forum will be very active, and they will all be approaching the respective DISCOMs for this kind of an agreements and data, which can be a potential revenue opportunity. The billing and collection system, which I said, which is there in 1900 plus, it's state of the art billing systems. Same billing system can be used for gas, for water, for house tax collection. All this can be
doing
done,
business
and cost of doing business come down. To begin with, the meter reading of the water and gas
given to the electricity company. They can
given to the electricity company. They can incorporate in the billing system and collect money, and it will go to them. Maybe a small
will be a huge
fee
saving
if they
for the
take it.
respective
That will be a huge saving for the respective companies, whereas a new revenue stream for
AMI data, which is going to be a very data when
very important data when millions of people have smart meters, and their 15-minute interval consumption data will be available. That could lead to so many opportunities with the artificial intelligence and machine learning and other tools could bring out new revenue streams for utilities. The GIS map. So today almost 1900 towns in the country have a digital map. These digital maps, most utilities are updating, although not on a daily basis, at least on a monthly or a quarterly basis. They are updating these maps. The digital map in a city with a distribution company means this has.
Sorry, I have some voice problem. Let me just fix that. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So I hope that
you can see here, speak here. That's
yeah. Voice is better now, I believe. So a minute. Yeah, this maps have come all the customers and the electrical assets, which means all the substations, lines, which means all distribution lines, means all the roads, all the buildings, and all the electrical assets and customers mapped on this. And this is a very valuable assets for all service providers in a city, people who are laying telecom cables, water pipelines, gas pipelines. For all of them, this is a valuable tool, and this can again be a revenue opportunity for electricity distribution companies. So automation systems of the SCADA and DMS, distribution automation, all this. The latest trend is that utilities are building their own communication network. This is the reason, because the electrical cables are today coming, underground cables today are coming with the fiber optic cables integrated in that. The actual cost is less than 2% extra. And some fibers, they can use it for their own communication. They don't need to depend on the public telecom network. And additional fibers can be leased to telecom companies. This is no additional right-of-way telecom companies need to give. Even on overhead lines, high voltage lines, utilities have already put up their own fiber in the past. Power Grid Corporation has more than 30,000 kilometers of fiber on their high voltage transmission lines. Many other transmission companies have that. So in the coming days, when all the discoms will have their own communication network that can be leased for other applications to gas distribution, water distribution, security cameras, the traffic management, etc. And the outage management system is a very, our mobile workforce management system is a very powerful IT platform, which can again be extended to all infrastructure service providers in a city. The call centers and data archives. This is something which again started in the RIPDRP with 1400 towns. Today under IPDS, it has been extended to 1900 towns. And we also have a 4-digit common number all across India, 1912. And this state-of-the-art call centers which are there, or customer service centers which is there with the electricity distribution company, it can actually convert it to a command center, city command center at marginal cost. So with the IVR, press 1 for electricity, press 2 for water, press 3 for gas, press 4 for something else. So this at marginal cost can be done. And electricity distribution companies, call centers, they have been experimenting with the voice bot and chat bots of late. And the number of agents have drastically come down. The experience of the customers have gone up, and the number of complaints itself has come down after this. So now I come to the next set of opportunities by unlocking the existing infrastructure and services. So selling of rooftop PV is something which we should actively promote. And in many, we started with net metering policies in Andhra, followed by Tamil Nadu and other states. From 2013 to 2016, all the states had all the states had net metering policies, but of late, some of the states have gone back from the net metering to gross metering, and although we have 40 gigawatt under the rooftop plan, actually implemented is only 4 gigawatt or something. So that's an area where we have not made much of progress. And if we allow people to sell to anybody, here I must compliment and thank RP Singh sir for coming out with the first the very first peer-to-peer trading of rooftop solar from on a blockchain platform, which ISGF helped set up in Lucknow, and that is operational as a pilot project from December 17th. So people are already buying and selling rooftop as a mock trading, and this is something which can be based on the results of this project. Currently it is mock trading, but based on which we are trying every month the different trading rules, and based on which appropriate regulations can be issued for scaling up that. And Sarah has already mentioned that in Kusum scheme, where the irrigation pump set are going to be solarized, they won't going to use 365 days. Farmers don't use that. The solar panels will generate electricity, and if we have the energy storage along with that, they will be able to sell it, or if they allow them to sell it to anybody on a blockchain platform. This is something which we would again experiment in UP and take it to other states. A study which is conducted by BRPL and Center for Energy, Environment and Water in Delhi, in Rohini, Abhishek, who is on the panel, was the architect of this. So they have come out with a different benefit and cost of rooftop PV coming into a residential colony, and they have estimated 22 paise per kilowatt hour is the actual net benefit for the discom if this is enabled. And we should actually unleash a RTPV revolution in the country. We have another paper published last year which is available on our how this can be unleashed. We are advocating that utility should test and approve some set of solar panels which utilities consumers can go and buy from their nearby appliances store. Like you can get air conditioner and air washing machine from your neighborhood appliance store. They should be able to buy solar panels also from there. Also, utilities and other agencies should test and certify installers who can be hired for doing this, and make this scheme, the rooftop scheme, so simple that people will, and it has already become economically advantageous for most categories of customers. So selling of rooftop system is one area which we would actively promote. It is not moving. What happened? Yeah, so selling of energy efficient star rated appliances, this is something utilities are already doing in Delhi, in other places. So this should be scaled up. There's a scope for taking it to rural areas as well. And electric cooking is something which is very important subject which we must do to meet our NDC target. We often talk about the pollution, outdoor air pollution, but indoor air pollution is equally serious. Even in rural India, there are many places that 63% of the rural India still cook with biomass or some form of biomass, firewood, cow dung, etc. And this is area where we need to, the inside home air pollution, the PM 2.5 vary as much as 500 plus. And this need to be corrected. Millions of people have respiratory diseases. One estimate says in India alone, 600,000 people died of in-home air pollution. And we had published a white paper in November, and we had been advocating this with a variety of stakeholders for the last 1 year. And Government of India has now, on 19th of February, they launched a new program called Go Electric. Two components in the Go Electric. One is electric cooking and another one is electric vehicle. So we'll be working with the Bureau of Energy Efficiency. BE is the nodal agency for promoting electric cooking. This could be a very good additional load for the electricity companies. Our white paper we had released on this also, and yesterday we had a roundtable which were attended by more than 300 people from around the world, and this is an area which you will hear more about it in the coming days. Selling of EV chargers, we talked about it, and all the AC charger, we are advocating that they should come with a vehicle to grid functionality. We have a special session today, 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the evening, just 2 hours from now. So world renowned experts will be talking about V2G or grid integrated vehicles, but the selling of AC slow chargers in electric vehicle owners' houses is something which utility should take up seriously. And selling of batteries for energy storage. DG set replacement is something which we have been talking about in NCR. It's 3 years now that the National Green Tribunal has banned operation of DG set in October to March period. And all the big buildings in India have DG sets, big DG sets they have. And my connection has gone. Sorry, there is a
time. No.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me share this. Is it visible?
You want to do it from here?
Yeah, you connect it from there. Sorry about
Wait a second.
minor connectivity issue. Although we have a lease line, just open the PowerPoint. I'll present from there.
You stop sharing from there.
Yeah, I'll like to stop sharing from. Yeah. Where was I? Yeah.
Wait.
Go down. Yeah. DG set replacement is something which need to be taken up seriously. We have almost 100 gigawatt of large set size DG sets around the world, around the country. And this is something which we need to take up seriously. And lithium today with the DG set, with the price of diesel gone above 90 rupees in most part of the country. We have calculated recently, it's more than 30 rupees per unit of electricity. And today's price of lithium-ion battery, if you take, it has come down to somewhere 11, 12 rupees per unit of electricity. This will further come down as the scale up. And this is an area where but DG sets are operated in a big hotel or a building in anywhere in the country, not more than few hours in a month. The same thing when we replace with a lithium-ion battery, the power outage and the service of the battery for the building is limited to few hours only in a month. Rest of the time, the battery is sitting there, which can be leased back for grid services. So renewable integration and many other applications of the grid support, this is a very good solution, and utilities should come forward to get this DG set replacement done in their big customers where megawatt scale DG sets are there, with the promise that we will release back the battery for grid support services. And third parties can come and set up that this replacement, like the rooftop is being done. So the communication bandwidth, I have already spoken about it. Will not get into more the details of that. Smart homes and grid interactive building is the future. A building with a rooftop and an electric vehicle connected to it can be a grid interactive building supporting the grid, buying electricity from the real-time market when there is prices are low, storing it and selling it back during peak hour is going to be the future, and DISCOMs should come forward to enable that. We would like to take some pilot projects soon on this. So the value of the substation, I already mentioned about it. When we built big substations, those were rural areas, which has become city areas now, and those land has huge value and they need anyway maintenance. We must immediately look at a regulatory hurdle to remove, to convert them into gas insulated substations and commercialize the rest of the land, so that now railways are doing, many other agencies are doing the same way. The electric utilities also should do it. It's a win-win for everybody, and they can come out of their debts. Unlocking the value of the lamp pole. Lamp pole can install EV charging stations. They can have antenna for 4G, 5G antennas. The navigation system for drones. We in the forenoon we finished another roundtable on urban air mobility or passenger drones, so which require navigation systems everywhere. This can be installed on the lamp poles. Pollution monitoring sensors and security cameras, advertisement, all this. Today, this is a valuable asset which is actually lying underutilized. So maintenance of large building, the utilities can outsource the electrical maintenance of large buildings and commercial complexes, and they have very skilled employees, and they will be the customers also will have better confidence in handing over to the utilities themselves to maintain, which is another alternate revenue opportunity. And cooling as a service, I had already mentioned, and this is a very important activity. Summer temperature in North India has gone up drastically over the years. Only 5% of the households have air conditioner today. Only in urban areas like Delhi, etc., have bigger percentage, about 20-30% of the households in Delhi NCR have air conditioning. Across the country, only 5%. And the temperature by end of this decade will go above 50 degrees. It will be almost impossible for most people to live and work or commute. So we need to look at a new way of building a city with cooling as a service. We had as I mentioned, this is also being taken up seriously by Bureau of Energy Efficiency and Energy Efficiency Services as the nodal agencies. ISGF working with several stakeholders and also examining projects which can be taken up. We have one DCS plant in district cooling system plant in the gift city in Gujarat. We should look at doing more and taking this as a service. So I stop here, and this was presented, as I said, in the distribution utility meet in 2000. 20 November, and which was the session was chaired by Pujari sir, and a couple of other state electricity regulators were there. And we also had the Tata Power CEO, Mr. Pravir Sinha. They all felt that this is at least 3-4 of these ideas which were noted in this presentation should be taken up on priority to implement in at least do pilot projects in 2021-22. So since sir, you being the most progressive regulator in the country today, we call upon you, look upon you to take up this on a serious any idea which comes to your mind as a serious one. We should be ready to do a pilot or a detailed study on that. Also, I'll request Mr. Kapil Mohan. He has a meeting at 5 o'clock, so I would request him to give his views, and then we move on to other speakers. Over to you, Kapil Mohan, sir.
Sir, Kapil Mohan sir waited till now. Actually, he had an appointment with KERC chairman. Just now he left. He waited from almost 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Just 2 seconds ago, he left for the other meeting.
Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry, we started 15 minutes late, and so accordingly we got delayed. And we have also regret from the other two regulators. So I'll come to Ganesh Das and request him to. We have been exploring the Tata Power, been exploring the possibility of doing taking up the feasibility of a district cooling system in one of the states where they are electricity distribution license. Over to you, Ganesh.
Thank you. Thank you, Raji. Just a second, let me just put up a presentation. Just a second. So largely, you have touched upon most of the points, but what we would like to talk about is just a second. Let me see if the presentation can come in. Can you see the presentation slide, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what we will talk about is, you have covered most of the points, but there are certain things which we have looked at from the perspective of the Tata Power Delhi distribution and some of the challenges we are facing. What we looked at the new business opportunity is, one is, of course, we have been given a very clear mandate to operate on a regulatory framework, and which we have been doing, and we all understand the kind of challenges we face in this regulatory setup. There is a revenue overhang which is there and accumulated, and we are still trying to figure out that what sort of a tariff regulation will help us to sort that out. And while if it does not provide that kind of relief through tariff, then what is the way we can look at multiple dimensions of this entire thing? So traditional method, but the business environment is changing. So what is happening is two ways. One is you are having technologies coming in a big way, which has been mentioned by Ireji. And there are certain very positive policies also are coming in, like explained by Mr. R.P. Singh with respect to the net metering, etc. These are some of the positive, decisions which has been taken from the regulatory commissions. And apart from that, there is a high element of advocacy, because there has been a lot of learning which has been happening at multiple areas. So it is very clearly now defined that the distribution companies no longer are supposed to only manage the license business through the universal service obligation, but they should also look at how to accommodate the distributed energy resources, the solar rooftop, the storage solution which will associated with that, how to do demand response. Is it necessary for the distribution company to essentially put up only the network, or can they operate through the concept of microgrid? Because the distribution company in Odisha, which we are looking at, there are a lot of places which it has got a very different challenges. You have got cyclone coming in, you have got a lot of forest areas. So is it necessary to really walk the network or the extension of a transmission network there, or can we look at a microgrid as a concept for looking at that? So metering also, we are hoping that the metering also is going to have a lot of changes around that. So the electric vehicle is going to come in. So there is going to be a shift in demand pattern. We are trying to optimize the entire network and the power purchase which we are, or the power which we are buying. We are looking to see that what goes as a necessary to the consumers for the daily hygiene use, and what is that you're going to send it to the other players with respect to electric vehicle charging infrastructure and so on, and how to make sure that the balance of the payment also is maintained. And if you look at one of the things which is really kind of affecting India in a big way when it comes to Atmanirbhar Bharat, when you're talking about making manufacturing very friendly here, and if you compare with the across the world, the kind of opportunities there, our industrial customers pay a very high price. So is it possible to get them, or whenever there is or especially for those industries which is having a very high energy, dependence. So how do we really work on that? So customer expectation is changing. There are certain network issues which are coming in. So everything is changing. So efficiency, what we are looking at is definitely we are looking to see that how the cost reduces, working on the energy efficiency. These are some of the initiatives which is focusing on cost reduction and again provide new business opportunities and on energy efficiencies, demand response platforms, reduction in capex, because the kind of if the tariff is not going to change, if the revenue overhang which has been accumulated is not going to change, what is the point in investing capex? Can we be real intelligent in looking at the capex, what is required, what is not? How do we really reduce the opex? How do we really work on the power purchase to make sure get a lot of data and use the data internally also, and then see that how it could translate into very good optimal solution. And this could be an opportunity for working with the external customers and other related players also for sharing of the data and how to monetize the data. Not that you sell raw data to somebody, but you can sell a valuable information to someone, and then storage is going to come in a big way. Decentralized activity, and there are a lot of common technology which has been put into place. For instance, we have the advanced distribution management system, GIS, outage management system. There are a lot of infrastructure, communication network which has been set up. So can we really use it together to really take care of that? So if you look at the energy efficiency measures, it is something which has been going on for some time. Demand response is something which we are looking at very seriously. This is something which we feel can help us to address reduce the cost, as well as it can give a lot of value to the customer in reducing their bill. And then how do you really use digitization on various aspects of using data and then converting the data into very valuable information for taking it forward. Again, as I mentioned, and I'm just giving here a perspective with respect to utility having an opportunity to reduce their losses and increase their income. It is not a very aggressive thing, because for everything you have to go back to the regulator. Though of course in Delhi now the regulator has given us earlier the sharing of the external revenue, which was outside the license business, was 80% we need to share with the consumers and 20% used to come to the DISCOM, which again subsequently got shared with the government of Delhi. Now it has improved. So we are looking at that as an opportunity to look at that. So one is reduction of losses, and the second thing is making sure that the return on investment is fair for the shareholders as well as for the people for who has invested on that. So battery saving solutions, and then behind the meter would be a lot of opportunities, because the consumer is using energy, but consumer is also using a lot of things. If you look at a typical consumer home today, you have got a Wi-Fi, you have got a cable connection going in, you have got a lot of appliances coming in. So is it some way that we can play a role wherein we use the network inside the home, we use the digital television which is users in terms of taking the satellite information inside the home, and also can we also help the person or the consumer to use the equipments in a very optimal manner? Is it possible to read the signature of the equipment and tell the consumer that your equipment is going to go bad in 3 months time, and then you have to really look at this 3 months and then see that whether you want to change the equipment? Can we use this information to tell to the insurance guy provider that there is a possibility for you to underwrite the value of the insurance which you are going to offer at this price, because we know some of the information at the home, which is essentially looking at the equipment, etc. on that. So there are a lot of options trying to do that. As we move forward, we are just looking from this thing. Again, the objective would be to see that how the network capacity is optimal and the load is flattened. And why I'm time and again emphasizing this part is the distribution companies, though there are a lot of opportunities, but we don't want to lose focus on the fact that we want to make sure that the network is robust and the consumer who are connected to the network get the best of service. This, we are trying to put across the how this DR is going to play a big role. Energy efficiency, demand response, artificial intelligence, data analytics is going to help to manage the network in an optimal manner at the low voltage, medium voltage, and low at the high voltage. Low voltage digitization is extremely poor. That is something which we need to actually very seriously look at. There is no very minor automation at the low voltage level. The cost is very high. The technology providers are not putting their hand into this. Then the electric vehicle, wind, storage, etc. on that side. Essentially, we have to look at from the productivity standpoint, from the sustainable standpoint, from the cost reduction standpoint, and how this entire thing, provides better reliability to the grid. That should be ultimately on that. And some of the value-added services with respect to the new businesses, online marketplace is something the utilities can play a big role. Because if somebody understands the consumer the best, it is the electricity company. We are the closest to the consumer when it comes to the relationship. We are there with them everywhere. We are there invisible to him, but we are there in whatever walks of life the consumer travels. So we are very close to him. So understanding the behavior and then using that information to help the consumer to be more efficient in the marketplace, that is something which could be explored through certain platforms. Distribute energy resources through solar rooftop, distributed storage, and making the consumer to actually become a prosumer, as we have been talking about all the time. But how can we make this possible? Bundling few services, like I was mentioning about the satellite services of watching satellite programs along with the electricity, how we can bundle. It could be an incremental cost to really on that, and then monetizing the data with respect to how do we really add value to the customer, and then how utility also convert that into an opportunity by offering energy efficiency services at the industrial, commercial, residential places, so on and so forth. Thank you. This is what I had to share. I'll be very happy to have more discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful presentation, Mr. Das. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let me now invite our next speaker, Mr. Amit Mathur. Mr. Mathur, can you hear me? I would request you to please take over, and may I also request you to please stay within a time limit of 8 to 10 minutes, please?
Yes, thank you. I can hear you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay. So, good evening to all the speakers. So, in the age of disruption, business live and die by their ability to adapt. Now, often change is narrated as something which has a bad reputation in our society.
Thank you,
but it isn't all bad. So, as quoted by John Lilly, only security.
Sorry to intervene, Mr. Mathur. Dr. Das, may I request you to please mute your microphone? We can still hear you. Thank you very much. Go on, Mr. Mathur. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So as quoted by John Lilly, our only security is our ability to change. Now, looking at the digital revolution, that has come to the power industry, I would like to say that the future of utility is to adapt to this revolution. And utility of the future will be a fully digital system. Now, digitization doesn't mean that roads, factories, and the digital power plants of the future will turn into ones and zeros. But it does mean that our physical infrastructure will become increasingly integrated with our digital infrastructure. Now, coming to the question of the day, what are the new revenue streams for the DISCOMs? On this, I would like to say that this can be achieved through A, enhancing grid reliability, B, operational efficiency, C, new revenue streams. Now, in fact, if we look at these three options closely, the digital utility of the future captures opportunities all along the value chain. Now, again, coming to A point, distributed energy resources, enabled by big data-driven alignment of supply and demand. This will, bringing overall energy balance. Data-driven asset strategies, including preventive and conditional-based maintenance and predictive outage, will again be benefited. Again, the organizations will benefit from that. Smart grids and smart pipes will allow automated controls to improve network resilience. Thus better safety and improved efficiency through fewer losses. And this will also bringing transmission assets becoming smarter and offering new possibilities. It implies the ability to see the grid's vast field installations infrastructure from remote locations. Now this enables utilities to have a better monitoring, control, and maintaining their assets and infrastructure. This also will bring the workforce productivity. Thus the employees such as linemen and field engineers can now work faster and more safely. Even the customer interactions, will become better, which can be governed by, analysis of customer journeys. Customer segmentation will improve, and we can have the, personalized communication based on the data that we capture. Needless to mention that, all this would lead to a better, data-driven decision making. Now, the possible gain from digitizations are, greater than, early project planners generally believe in. Now, let me share an example from another industry. Now, the US logistics firm, United Parcel Service, for example, introduced track and trace for parcels in the 1990s, aiming to improve the customer offering. Now, only later did it become clear, that the greater transparency obtained through digitization allowed for better management of parcel deliveries, vehicle movement, and distribution processes. And in the end, the company improved efficiency across its entire scope of operations and several hundred of millions of dollars, by adopting this process. Now, with the grid getting smarter, through the mobile apps, now consumers have a better control and choice over how they consume the power. And they can exert, better environment-friendly decisions by choosing the renewable power. Now, they can also take advantage of lower tariffs by planning activities that consume more power during the off-peak hours. However, the everyday act of scheduling the home's washing machine cycle can mean saving to the consumer, as one of the speakers mentioned about it. But it also allows the utility company to shape peak consumptions, plan out the peak shaving of peak consumption. Now, if a utility has to balance the generation and supply of power and achieve cost efficiency, peak shaving is definitely a very critical activity. Now, coming, since I am coming from a city grid distribution company, and one of the speaker has also mentioned about how the discoms can have a better partnership with the CGD companies, and it is really, I think, very much in this will happen in future, because the kind of database and the kind of network that the discoms have, CGD companies which are now expanding throughout the country, if they get that kind of access of the data about the consumer behavior, I think it will be a great partnership to have. Also, the discoms are having a very good GIS system, GIS mapping, and I think that will also be very useful for the CGD companies. And if we talk about the electric vehicles, which are the future, definitely, with the CGD companies also expanding across the country, and they have a lot of network in already established CGD network. Again, the association of CGD companies with discoms for EV charging can definitely be a very good partnership area to look into. So, IGL is also exploring, gas-based smart appliances for smart homes. I feel that a future of future of powers companies with the, uh, in view of the revolution of digitization that has come in, is still very good, and a lot of innovations can be done. And in the end, it will not only benefit the company, but the society at large as well. So that is all I want to share, because most of the things have already been shared by the learned speakers. So I would not like to repeat the same thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mathur, for some very illuminating insights. And let me now invite Mr. Mark Boylett, Ambassador, Global Smart Energy Federation. So I request you to please stay within a time limit of 8 to 10 minutes. The stage is all yours. Mr. Boylett.
Okay, can you see? Hello, everybody. Thank you for the invitation. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Absolutely, we can.
Oh, great. So I've worked for 40 years with EDF and NG in the utility business, and very active in the international scale. And now I am ambassador for GSEF, and that's why Reggie proposed to me to make this presentation. I was very impressed by the different various presentations before me. But unfortunately, I cannot really, why does it? I have a problem moving to, oh, okay, it's okay. So as an introduction, I would like to say that the utilities worldwide are facing this potential decrease of their revenues from electrons, and that's not only in the developed countries, but also in emerging countries, and they all have to think about their future, and they are very legitimate and experienced in infrastructures and network design, construction, operation, maintenance. And so it gives a very broad perspective for their role in the community, not only in electricity. And this was stressed by previous speakers. And especially in the deregulated environment, they are the only entity to have access to all customers. Because as you know, when there is the deregulation, then there are competitive suppliers who are providing different offers to the customers who can choose a supplier. And then the only entity to have access to all suppliers is the DSO, the distribution system operator. And this is a very big advantage because it is with industrial and commercial customers, SMEs, residential, and they can also provide the customers with various offers. This is very strongly regulated by the national regulator, but there is still room for providing services. Whereas in emerging countries, markets are not mature, and utilities can do a lot more. Then they can boost the development of their countries to the benefit of the customers. That's very important. On the next slide, of course, climate change is really the driver, and this will create new opportunities for utilities, which are very well placed. The link with climate change is a huge advantage for electricity. And it makes the electricity uses as a goal, and they will expand dramatically in the future in substitution to thermal uses. So we mentioned many times the electricity cooking here, but also e-mobility, public transport, and many other substitution processes. And you also create new business in addition. It's a new value creation, like heat pumps for heating and cooling system where it doesn't exist. the road traffic regulation, the road signage, and many other uses which are in particular linked to data valorization, and this is something new which will bring value from scratch. So the competitive advantage of electricity, you know about this, the limited CO2 emissions with RES and storage, security. The technologies now are becoming more and more mature, and the platforms are developed for electricity and can be shared with other operators. So in terms of local development, utilities will be in the front, and they also are requested by their stakeholders, like the public authorities, the communities, the regulator, to sustain local development and increase the population welfare in terms of energy, services, water, education, employment. And this is something, it gives a very serious role and responsibility to the utilities to do that. And they can optimize the investment and reduce the cost of service because of this sharing process with other operators. And this will together improve the system efficiency for the benefit of the community. And this applies to all kinds of networks, electricity, of course, natural gas, biogas, hydrogen, the water, the steam, the heat, the cooling that was mentioned earlier, the road, the railways, the fiber optics, radio, PLC, and front or behind the meter. So the field of expansion is with no limit, basically. But the capacity of utilities to develop these new activities will highly depend on regulation. And whereas in Europe, for example, regulation is very limiting the expansion in various fields for utilities. On the contrary, where regulation is not established, in many countries there is no regulation at all, or when it is open to enlargement of the activities of the DSOs, then it's really an incredible opportunity for utilities to develop what they can do, taking advantage of their existing position. I give some examples, but they are only examples. There are much broader possibilities, of course, and I will start to say that utilities can sell equipment, they can sell services, and that's what I also mentioned before. I will stress more on the services, but selling rooftop PV, solar schemes, or smart appliance, where it's possible. I mean, that's a big business. Here, I mentioned the aggregation of thousands of flexibility sources in VPP schemes, just like batteries, solar PV rooftop installations, or behind the meter applications, such as heating and cooling systems. All of these can be aggregated and be used for the regulation of the whole system, the electric system. And that's something where the role of the DSO is absolutely unique. And having this capability of mobilizing assets that have been developed at the level of the residential or industrial customers is a great advantage. And then for his own uses, utility can also mobilize batteries or charging stations to relieve local congestions. And more than that, it's not only activate this, but also be manager of these tools. Regarding microgrids, microgrids are, in many countries, are developing very quickly, both in industrialized countries like in the US for naval base or universities, but also a lot in Africa, and I'm sure and in India around the telecom tower. It was mentioned also by Reggie. So rather than opposing the microgrids development, I think the utilities should help, because they have the knowledge in terms of planning, designing, engineering, construction, operations of networks. And they can also provide services like forecasting, local optimization, transactions, and also they can sell offers for emergency service in case of a blackout of the microgrid. And that's of course will happen statistically for all kind of situation, and that's the user of the microgrid will appreciate to have a backup coming from the utility. It will give visibility to the positive action of the utility. And then services behind the meter can be provided to local authorities or large customer or even residential customers. And the diagnosis and repair of the electrical installation in public buildings, security, monitoring, alarms, there are a quantity of services that can be offered. And without mentioning the public lighting, which is critical in many places where it doesn't exist and where it creates a lot of problems in the community. Next slide. On the digitalization and big data, utilities already manage big data. And this can be done on a broader scale in terms of organization, of collection, transmission, storage, distribution to other operators in a partnering mood. So, but to do that, you need interoperability and guarantee access to data to all players in a given region. And this is very important because local authorities, sometimes they want to do it by themselves, but they will have their own system. And for electric uses and gas, water, you need to have a broader scale and a larger perimeter so the utility can do it, whereas the local utility cannot. And the utility can propose leapfrogging with digitalization, particularly in Africa, where they start from nothing. So there is a possibility to directly move to a renewable storage with a very attractive costs of services, and the utility can also provide cartography of networks. So there are a number of services. The limit is really the imagination, and that's something I would like to say. The recommendations is that we should start right now in any utility to think about the next steps and how to shape the future and not become a Kodak, it was mentioned. This is not only a vision, it should also be about people. Be innovative, agile, anticipate, don't wait until the problem is in front of you, and take risks, test, try, make decisions. So this new business development will benefit to all stakeholders. It will, and particularly the customers, the employees, and all the local authorities. Everybody should benefit from it. A very key issue is the talents. You need data scientists, start-uppers, modelization engineers, prevision forecasting engineers, new developers. That's something that is absolutely key. If you don't have these capacities inside the company, then it won't work. And another key point is utilities are very appreciated for their public service values and long-term investment. But now it's not only this, but if you want to really be engaged in the business, you need to have shorter performance, quick decisions making. So this is a new way of not only behavior but planning, and I'm sure that people can do it, but they should be sustained from the top of the company to behave this way. And another issue is to go international to benchmark your competitiveness. So this could also be inside a country in different zones, just to provide the services to other people who don't have these capabilities. And this is a way to check that you're really in the front runner, and also that you're competitive in terms of cost, and that you provide quality services. So the regulation is a limit, and where it doesn't exist or when it's open. So if utilities should work hard to keep room for business and avoid to create new barriers limiting the business development. Okay, I think I'm finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark, for sharing the info on the new revenue opportunities and how behavior change is also required to understand these opportunities. With this, I would like to invite Shri Abhishek Ranjan to talk about his experience.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, Mr. Ranjan, we can hear you.
Thank you. I must thank ISGA for giving me this opportunity today, and a very interesting session we are talking about. May I please share my screen?
You have the sharing rights. Just share your screen and the presentation.
Sure. Just let me know if I'm able to display my screen.
Yeah, we can see that. Please go ahead.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Let me be very, very brief, because we have seen presentations from Mr. Reggie, which was very exhaustive, and also followed by Dr. Ganesh Das. He has also mentioned some points, and followed by other speakers as well. Now, to be very, very specific about what we know today, what are the revenue opportunities today? What are the current revenue opportunities? I mean, basically there are two, as we all know: tariff income and non-tariff income. Anything what we are earning from the retail sale of the electricity business, that is pure vanilla business, universal supply of obligation, etc. That is my tariff income. And then non-tariff income, basically today what we do, any utility does in this country, is about physical asset monetization. For example, you rent out your pole, substation, paper bills, add on the paper bills, customer care help desks are there. There you allow somebody to put on a kiosk and charge them some rental. But the physical asset monetization is now a thing of past. I mean, it is not, especially with the events like COVID, where the new business models have evolved and there have been technological disruptions basically. So digital is the platform where we are going to, and that is what the point we have heard so far. I have tried to capture my thoughts in a single slide, which is like this. What are the alternative revenue means? And when I say alternative, today it looks like alternative, tomorrow it is going to be the mainstream. And that tomorrow is not very far off, the way we expect statutory and legislations in our country. The first point is the growings of the sales, basically. So that is the tariff income. One is how to, and this growing of the sales has to be with the thing in mind that the carbon footprint has to be reduced. A. B. There should be efficient utilization of electricity. It's not like you are trying to, for the same degree of cooling that you want, you should not spend more than what a 5-star AC is taking, for example. So with that, these two caveats, say beneficial electrification. So beneficial electrification means we as a distribution companies are running multiple schemes, basically. On the right hand side, I have tried to write them down: AC, fan, rooftop. Now, what are the other sources of energy which can be converted or can be sourced from electricity? And that electricity is nothing but the green electricity or renewable energy. Cooking is the other source, other energy consuming or guzzling activity in our country, which has a very big potential and where we are now focusing on. Induction cooking and what could be the other innovations in the cooking. That is also a result of our load research that we completed last month. Apart from that, the sector coupling market is also having a flexibility as well as a revenue opportunity. Power to X, as we all know, power to heat or power to gas, etc. Why can't we utilize excess power instead of selling it on the exchange, convert into hydrogen at the substations, if at all that is coming to be more beneficial? Electric transportation is another area. Very soon we are going to launch the home EV charging program. Again, it could be through the operators or directly by us as a service, home charging as a service. And public tender is already out in Delhi. So electric transportation is also going to add to the tariff income and is a very good complementarity offering to the rooftop solar PV. The other point which is not regulatory tested in this country is whether the behind the meter distributed energy resources or utility side of distributed energy resources can be owned under capitalization method by the utility, especially the BTM one. So BTM, anything is not owned by utility or by the regulation. But the way we are seeing that penetration of the distributed energy resources, maybe EV charger or charging, home appliances, smart home appliances, bidirectional home appliances, resources which are generating electricity like solar PV with or without battery storage, only battery storage. All these assets, whether they can be owned, even demand response as a service as an asset, whether it can be capitalized and can be owned. If that is possible, that is how it is going to be to increase the rate base. Some of them are also called non-wired alternative, NWAs. So there is no law or regulation in place which says that the NWAs can be capitalized as made as a part of rate base. Like for example, in New York, con addition, they have been allowed. So they allow capitalization of the non-wired asset as a part of the rate base, and they earn a return on it. So here we are also trying to figure out if the rooftop solar schemes can be proliferated and owned by the distribution companies, smart inverters. They can take part in the volt-wire or volt-watt schemes, which can develop as a load balancer or maybe reactive power voltage management services also. Those flexibility services can also be utilized by the utility by owning them as a part of the rate base. Because growing proliferation of the distributed energy, renewable energy, is also having its own side effects, or it comes along with the own other set of challenges. So flexibility is required there, and for that, the distributed resources again become the sources of flexibility, and they should be allowed to be owned by the DSO, which is not there currently in the. Now we talk about the value-added service, online marketplace. Many of us, like including us, we are also having an online marketplace where you can procure the AC fan rooftop schemes. Now we are talking about why can't we offer demand response as also a service. That also the pilots, etc. have been done. We are submitting a peer-to-peer energy trading as a service. Why can't it be provided or provided for by the utility themselves as a service? But the retail tariff determination is a regulated mechanism. It is not open, and therefore utilities can't do. Or maybe in the near future we have that. Data services is the another one where the Mr. Reji also and Ganesh Dash also have talked about the data services. The data plethora of data is there. Whether this data can be utilized, the customer data can be utilized to offer them a value-added services in terms of, like, for example, somebody talked about decoding the appliance signature from the load profile, telling them something about their usages, or connecting them to the other utility service providers. But the question only over here would be, where does that stop in the name of, say, for example, privacy issues? So what kind of laws are there, and where is the thin line which divides the privacy vis-a-vis usage of the data for analytics? We already know about the internet marketplaces where they use, based upon our search pattern, they create a profile, online profile of the consumer. How ethical or unethical, we don't want to get into that debate. Connected homes or the smart homes. When you talk about connected smart home as a microgrid, solar PV, EV charging, energy storage, demand response, micro wind, V2G, all these connected homes, I mean, together in a VPP atmosphere. And then these connected homes can be managed by the utility as such at a certain fee. Whether it is allowed, VPP again today is not defined in the regulations today, has not been recognized. So whether that can be done, because this is very essential for a DSA to function, and that is where we are heading very steadfastly. The way we are increasing the penetration of the distributed energy resources. New line of businesses could be O&M services for the solar rooftop, installation. Today we are anyway doing the installation through our empaneled vendors. O&M services could be another line of business for us. Solar O&M, energy storage O&M, O&M for the home EV charging. Why don't we provide all the appliances O&M to the consumer, the complete service, complete home appliances service kind of thing. Strategic partnership, this could be provided either on their own or maybe through partnerships. So we can have our empaneled partners who can provide on our behalf, and these services can be provided. In terms of voltage quality, could also be like provision of voltage, quality voltage and quality power supply as a service, commodity. Investment in technology firms is another. For example, there is a very, very good synergy between the technology firms and our distribution companies. There have been some technologies which I read somewhere that the same electricity line can also be used to transmit other signals at different frequency, which is useful for broadband or television or data, etc. The same line, same electricity line can be used as a data carrier also. So if that becomes commercially viable as and when, so that is another line of business that we are talking about. So in the right hand side, what I have mentioned is home EV charging, digital touch points. These can be monetized, which have not been monetized so far, all of them. These can be monetized. Energy as a service deployment and operation maintenance of the rooftop solar is the way to go when we talk about DSO, when the operational as well as deployment control grows for a DER in the hands of the distribution company. Whether DER will be allowed as a part of the rate base. Data analytics based services can be thought of again the thin line, where do we stop? And smart home services, which I talked about, automation across appliances, rooftop solar panel energy production, EVs and storage. Now, if we talk about the last slide, the key takeaways, NTI or other business income, non-tariff income, other business income, regulations are already in place. The ratios are all defined, might be different for different utilities. But the thing is, as we move forward and we talk about separation of carriage and content, there might be a need for exploring whether the entire 100% of the NTI OBI could be retained by the utility instead of some limits which have been specified. That could be one regulatory insight. Second is DSO owned non-wired asset may be allowed as a part of the rate base. When I gave an example of the Connet, New York. And finally, very importantly, clarity on data protection laws, whether when we talk about data analytics and sharing of this data for giving some services to that consumer only or some other consumers, we are not falling on the wrong side of the law. So with this, I'll end my presentation. Thank you.
Sir. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let me now call on, after Mr. Ranjan, we have our next speaker, Mr. Ram Mohan Ray Parole, National Manager, EMS CMS Computers Limited. Thank you once again, Mr. Abhishek Ranjan, for that wonderful presentation. And I'd like to request Mr. Ram Mohan Ray Parole to kindly take over.
Respected speakers and distinguished guests, good evening and warm greetings. And my name is Ram Mohan, representing the CMS Computers Limited. As most of the just a minute. Is my presentation is visible? Hello?
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir. If you could put it on.
Am I audible also?
Yes, sir. Yes. You're audible also. You can put this on full screen if you like, sir, using the slideshow mode.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. As most of the things are already covered by the Reji Pillai and the previous speakers, but I have certain things, two things which I can share in my presentation. the CMS computers is widely known as a CMS for the last 4 decades has been playing a very important role in system integration and helping most of the utilities and in the energy sector and other sectors with our solutions and succeeding with their objectives. We provide expertise and experience and delivering the IT-enabled systems in e-governance services, traffic and transportation, energy management solutions, and IT services and software services. We are a leading system integrator and implementing the smart cities and the smart grid systems. So when it comes to the energy portfolio, we have played a very key role in both the digitizing and the digitalization. So digitizing here in the means that we have been providing the state of art of the smart metering systems and the communication systems, including the DCUs and the transmission net, systems and devices and the software at the front end. And we are very much committed for the energy securities of India and making each and every product and the service of ours contributing to the success of the smart grid systems. We are a manufacturers of the smart meters and also building up smart grid systems, enabling the utilities with our asset management systems and providing the end-to-end solution in the automatic meter reading systems, AMI, ABT, and the DSM mechanisms and the implementations. In a continuous, at the consumer side, we're also controlling the energy efficiency and through our implementations of the energy management systems, auxiliary monitoring systems, and the building and management systems. And we are also providing the tools to have the renewable energies forecasting and the scheduling and scheduling and management, demand management options. So we have the overall, we have providing the complete monitoring systems and the controlling systems and the data analytics with the command control centers built up. And all these things are being provided under the platform of the Grid Logic, which is an integrated energy management platform. And this is has made us as a leading system integrator. And our strength is the convergence of the digital technologies with the physical systems. So as most of the points which has already been discussed, and when it comes to India, the national energy security is of a priority, and government has initiated many steps in increasing the power supply, delivering the infrastructure to ensure the highest level of efficiency, security, and the resilience. The most three important points, which is the government has initiations, is the 100% electrification, power for all the programs, power for all program, aiming to the 24/7 round-the-clock power supply to the existing users and provide electricity access to all the households in India. And decarbonization, where government has initiated the world's largest renewable energy expansion, having 170 to 75 gigawatt of the power, making electricity more clearer and emission-free, and also that electrification of the transportation sectors. And the decentralizations and day by day increasing the solar rooftop systems, transforming the consumers to the prosumers, and reduction in the cost of the renewable energy system. So day by day, the cost of the renewable energy systems has been reducing, and this enabling the more deployment of the more and more solar rooftop systems across the country. So other side, after having the decades of rigorous work put by the various power chain entities, and the consumers are having the choices now today. And today, more or less, the India has the power surplus and where the supply is exceeding the demand. So utilities has to focus more on the asset utilization and the profitability in their operations. And there is a cost of declining the cost of the renewable energy. There is a steep fall in the solar panels and the battery cost that reduce the cost per unit of the RE and increasing the number of the prosumers. And also there is a increase. There has been an increase in the short-term power trading and facilitating the large consumers to have a choice and economic reasons to move to the power procure and the competitive rate. And also today the consumers has the choice of having the multi-source and through the choice of the retailer, they can select the service providers. So this is these are all the things which the consumer has gained, the choices from the utility side. But in addition to that, there are some other increase other things like the increase in the digital technologies in other sectors, and especially the massive usage of the smartphones and increasing the which increases the expectations and awareness levels of the consumers. There is a deep penetration of the social media, increasing the awareness levels of the consumers, and the data is available at his hand very much faster. And there is there is an increased number of the connected devices. The residential loads and the commercial loads has been increasing very drastically. And there are a lot of technological innovations and the digital transformations which increased the levels on the awareness of the consumers. Today, consumer is more smarter and has looking forward to have the more control and the conveniences. So this from the both sides, getting from the utility side as well as from the social media and other thing. So today in the expectations of the consumers, in addition to the round the clock power quality power supply and also at the cost, but the consumer is also looking for the comfort, convenience and the control. And also ease of doing the transactions, and also have the value added services and clean energy. And he's ready to move to the rooftop solar systems, which helps him to have the some credits on the energy and reducing his electricity bills. And he doesn't mind to move to the distributed energy resources. Considering the having all these things, so the utilities has to prepare for the procure the power. Basically, the procurement, the cost, the revenues can be increased in two folds. One is from the reduction of the cost and cost avoidances, as well as increasing the sales side, and also looking for the new opportunities. So the utilities have the at the top level, so procure the power at low cost and manage their short-term power requirements. And also at the other side, that the consumers increase the DER installations and integrate more renewables into the systems, and to maintain high reliability of the power supply, and introduce the consumer-centric business models, and increase consumer engagement and participation, and provide value-added services to the consumer needs. So this helps this needs a lot of the energy, the information flow, as well as the data and the power flow is required, which I will explain you in the next slides. So the pathways to increase the utility revenues is the increase the number of sales, the increase the number of connections, and promotion of the electrical transportation. So EV charging and everything, which is the basic, which is the most critical things which needs to be transformed if we have to meet the climate conditions and climate mitigations, basically to meet that. And cost reduction and the cost avoidances. Today we have the DERs as well as the fossil fuel, the energy generated through the fossil fuels like thermal and the high gas and other things. So we need to bring a proper energy mix, and also to do that we need to have a lot of AI and the consumer engagements are required. So we have there are the systems are available. So where the demand and the demand response and the peak load managements are used to reduce this cost reductions, and especially making the demand management side. So growing the consumer involvements, DER promotion and the efficiencies. So based on the solar power as having the dynamic nature of the solar energy and the availability of the solar power, so the DER promotions, the distributed energy source, increasing the strength of the distribution energy sources in the system and making the use of the more solar power, the systems, the utilities has to go for the more and more the demand response and the peak load management options. So that will help the consumers to utilize the availability of the power at a particular time. And these timings may vary based on the availability of the power. But today the systems, the digital systems are help the utilities as well as to the consumers to tune to the availability and the consumption timings together. As the Singh sir said in the as a first session day, so the devices at the end devices like the washing machine or the the geysers, whatever it may be, these has to be built up with a digital technologies which will have the time tuning and also self-learning, and based on the availability of the power, based on the availability of the energy, the systems will work automatically. So this makes the smart homes as well as the availability of the energy and better utilization of the energy and the availability availability of the solar power and the consumption points and meet the timing options there. So other is the value added services. Today, most of the data in the smart grid systems, the lot of data has been getting accumulated. So that data can be used for the consumer benefit, and which helps the consumers to implement the energy efficiency programs and procure the energy efficiency equipments, understand his load profiles, and so tune to the respective equipments and bring down the usages and bring down his own electrical costs. So the information has to be shared. If the consumer has the information available with him, so it helps him to use this data for his own purposes and making his homes smarter, and also he will be able to participate with the utility efforts, and one is from the demand side management and also the energy efficiency. So this helps the utility having the data of the consumer and the consumption pattern and the consumption profiles. So that information can be shared with the consumers. So that will help the consumers to participate in the overall energy efficiency programs. And the new lines of the businesses, so like as I said, as most of the speakers have said, the distributor, DER, the distribution energy resource promotions, as well as strategic partnerships with the technology companies and the OEMs. There are a lot of energy efficient equipments which have been coming up with the BE labels. So those equipments and those technologies can be promoted under the energy efficiency program with to the consumers based on their consumption patterns and which is relating to them. So this will help the utilities to have new lines of the businesses and also can add value to the services.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Can you please conclude in 1 minute?
Yes, madam. It's good. So as a case study, I would like to explain you one of the implementations of the ABT and the DSM mechanisms, where how the information helps the both different entities to coordinate each other and derive the benefit of the information in maximizing their revenues. So the recent SLDCs has been regularly publishing their schedules and the declared capacities, everything over the net. So today, the utilities have been able to have the access to those information, and utilities are taking that information and making their schedules and making their systems to run according to those schedules. So this helps the utilities and the generation companies to have the proper power flow. So with the less interruptions and with the UI revenues, sharing the UI revenues and maximizing the revenues, this helps the systems to run smoothly. And we have the systems which are put across the various sectors, and the data is coming, and there is a with high-end data analytics. The data shows which helps the utilities to have how much is their capacities, and what is the source, and what is the availability of the power, how much is the consumption patterns. There will be a handshake of the information, and that will help the utilities to smooth their operations. So as a takeaways, utilities should be prepared to make the paradigm shift to the future readiness, make the existing systems more efficient, as well as to diversify the energy mix. Digital technologies can play an enabling role and help power utilities to address their need. And future utilities should have the seamlessly managed integration of the DER into the grid and provide reliable power supply of excellent quality, low cost, and cost efficient, and regard consumers as partners of the journey, and provide impeccable customer service, and be the top portal of the all energy needs of the consumers. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. That was a truly very illuminating presentation. And with that, we come to the end of this session. This has been a very interesting one with a lot of luminous insights. And I'd like to thank once again our chair, Shri R.P. Singh, our moderator, Mr. Reji Kumar Pillai, and our esteemed panelists on the session. And now